All right, good morning. Hey, not too bad after. I had the feed up. What time is it? 10:05. Hey, I'm doing good. Let me get my watch off. How is everybody? Welcome to Monday Methods on another, of course, steamy, should I say sultry, hot, sticky day down here in South Georgia. I'm looking forward to having fun. I got a great project. I love making these guys. I hope everybody's doing well. Let me step over here. Let me see. I can only see certain things, so I'm going to switch over here real quick. I need to buy more monitors. I need more stuff. Good morning, Art. Good morning, Dad. Good morning, Larry Ann. Good to see y'all. All right. What did I call this? Came up with the title yesterday, and apologize for the sweat. It's just the way it is here. Turning thin natural edge holoforms, I believe I called it. And I went out and got a blank. Here we have a piece of maple that we're going to be working with today. And I tried to choose what, excuse me, going to be one of those days. Try to choose one that has some spalting in it. Oh, shoot, I forgot to put my, I knew I was so busy trying to, here's my story, and I'm sticking to it because it's true. It's always something, isn't it? So, as you know, I've been having some microphone issues, right? In the not too distant past, like the last couple of shows. And so I had a brand new set of the Rhodes microphone system, which it's like a $400 system. It's not like it is. And so I set that up this morning, and they're prepared to work on it. And they were, of course, was prepared to a different channel than the old one. I was just going to switch out the transmitter and the mic to not get any static. Hey, good morning, Dick. Hope you're doing well. So I had that all switched out, had the batteries in. Everything was all green lights. Everything was looking good, except that there was no sound coming through the microphone into the system. And it was the brand new stuff. And I checked the directions 5 minutes ago. And I was like, this isn't working. So I had to switch the batteries back over to the older system. I do have the new microphone cable in. So let me know if the static comes along today. Maybe it's in the microphone cable. That's what I'm hoping for. Back here, with our wonderful technology, you know, it's always something. Okay, so anyway, back to, now that I have my switcher, overhead camera, and you can see the spalting in this piece. All right. Now, it's I'm calling it a natural edge piece today. It doesn't have any bark on it. It's just the old wood there. But we're going to turn it in such a way that we'll get the use of these natural edges in the piece. I mean, this thing is 4 or 5 years old, if it's a day anymore. So it's also being spalted. It's kind of soft, or getting that way. So it's going to have some of that different density thing in it. I haven't turned any green wood in a while, and I'm kind of missing turning some green wood because the green wood is like super easy. But hey, I'm trying to get through this wood that I've got stacked up and stored. I mean, I'm paying to store it, so I might as well turn it before I go get anything fresh. So that's what we're going to do. I had to cut it down a little bit on the bandsaw. The first piece I had, which is still out in the van, was just too big. If I cut it down to fit in the diagonal, and that's one of the things, because this is going to be a natural piece, I have to have the diagonal be 18 inches or just slightly under to fit on the lathe. And if I had cut down the piece I had first chosen, it would have just been too weird looking. So I chose a smaller piece, and it's not square, which will make for a fun, unique shape. I always like things that aren't symmetrical. So to give you an idea, we are 11 inches. We're 11 inches in the length running with the grain, and we are 13 inches across. So we are a rectangle. All right. We are about 4 inches thick on the thick end and 3 inches on the thin end. Right, so that's going to make for a nice, interesting variation, which is what I want, to have some variation come out on the sides. And I'm sure that green tape measure looks weird in the screen. Good morning, Guy. Thanks for dropping in. And I also, when I get done with this, I want to put some dye on it. And one of the reasons I chose this spalted piece, I think I brought Magenta. I ran out to the warehouse this morning, and I've got some of the Chroma Craft alcohol-based Annalen dye, and I chose Magenta because the reds and the magentas, the green works good, the blue, but the green and the blue with my chroma key does weird things, so I chose a magenta color. I love the way the spalting lines stay accented or highlighted, if you will, even when we put the color on it. So even if I don't sand this piece today, I'm still going to put the color on it so you can see how coloring a piece of spalted wood, some people think that's a maybe a bad idea. They go, oh, it's a beautiful spalted piece of wood, why would you add color to it? Well, when you add color to the spalting, you get more dimensions. You get multiple things going on. Nature gave you part of it, and chemistry gave us the other part. So, you know, when I was turning and selling at the craft shows and all that kind of stuff, and at the galleries, that stuff was always great. People loved it because it's unique. It's not just a plain piece of wood, even though the piece of wood is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Natural wood is a wonderful thing. It's fun to play with it. So even if I run out of time, which I usually do, I'm going to color this, and then I would just turn it some more and turn the color away or sand it off later on, someday 3, 4, or 5 years from now, the way I run. So that's the kind of a plan. And I was toying with which way am I going to mount this guy, and I think I'm going to keep it simple and make this the inside and this be the bottom. So I'll put faceplate here, or maybe a spur drive or a step drive. I ran out and grabbed one. If you remember, those of you who hang with me regular, I broke my 2-inch, and I don't have another one. This is a Sorbet 1 1/4 that Spiracraft carries. It's not as big. I like the bigger 2-inch one. So I could do this either way. If I made this the top, I would have more undulations to it, but since I kind of want to put a little hollow form in the middle, I think I'll go ahead and make this the top, let the natural edge come from these two sides, where my hands are here. Oh, and I'm on the wrong camera. These two, I need a producer. On the sides where my hands are, that's going to be the natural edge. All right? So let's kind of get going. As always, if you have any questions, pop them in here. Put them in the comment column over there. Let's see. Lan Brady's here. Good morning, Lan. Todd's here. How you doing, everybody? It's great to see you. It is a wonderful Monday morning. Now that I had that tape measure, you guys know that I'm not real fancy on how I do stuff. So I'm just going to find the ballpark center of this guy. I do not get carried away. Freeform is one of my favorite things to do. And you can see in this overhead shot, this piece is, even being rectangular, it still has a sloping edge and a sloping edge. So there's going to be nothing perfect about it. So it's 17 inches after I cut it down on the bandsaw. So that would be 8.5 on my coffee this morning. And this way it is 17, so it's 8.5 again. So right about in there. Now here's the deal. I got a little bit of a hump right in here. So this is my center. One of these days I'm going to bring my Arbortech grinder over. I got an Arbortech grinder over next door, and I could grind that flat real quick. And I also have a 4-inch grinder, but that's out at the warehouse. So we're not going to do that, but I think I might just take my chisel and chip that flat real quick. I think I will, if I can find it, which I believe it's over here in my drawer. So let me go overhead and find my wonderful chisel. It's always crazy when I do Saturday special, and then I get back out here on Monday and have to regroup myself to find all the goodies and the toys. All right. And my favorite mallet is still here. I know you guys love my favorite mallet. Byproduct of a class. Yes, it does do the trick. All right, nothing fancy. Get a few things out of the way here. And I just want to chip this a little bit flatter than what it is. And I don't need much. See if I can find the best way to do this. This will work. And only take a couple of minutes. And I may have to redo my X. And then I'm going to bring a faceplate over here. A grinder, of course, would be faster. But I try not to sand or grind or anything else because of all the dust in here and the electronics. I mean, I'm having a whale of a time as it is. Keeping things working. All right. Let's see how this lays on here. Got a little rock right there like I thought it would. Okay, a little bit more. I won't spend too long on it. And if it won't do what I want, then I will switch over to the step drive and we'll just do it with the step drive. Because the step drive has a such smaller footprint. There's always more than one way to get where you're going. And I hope that banging isn't too loud on your ears there. Okay, that's sitting pretty flat. I can live with that. I can work with that. And it looks like my X is still pretty much right there. I'm going to turn this way. Well, let's turn it this way. I'm trying to find somewhere that it sits flat and I can see. Approximately the center. This is a wild form, so that's okay. Now I'm going to use number 10, but I'm going to use short screws. I'm going to use the 1 inch. There's actually 1.25 inches. 2, 4, 7. Number 8 should be hiding around somewhere. Because I don't want to go too deep. Now another thing to keep in mind is I've said, I want to make a little hollow form in the middle. So I've got these screw holes. So as I go through the process, depending on how the little form, change camera, depending on how the hollow form, what I make of it, comes out, I may put the screw holes, make the hole big enough to make those go away, or I may make them, make the hole small enough that when I turn away they disappear. Okay, so it could go either way. All right, do. I'm humming, that means I'm having fun. I'm ready to go. I'm looking forward to this. And I'll get one on either side. I hope everybody had a good weekend. We had fun out here on Saturday. I did a special sale time, if you will, for resin casting products and stabilizing products. Had a ball. I was out here from 1 to a little after 3 o'clock. People picked up some supplies that they needed for their resin casting and stabilizing. These are Spax brand screws, and it's got a square drive, and it really stays right into screw. So you have to be careful, or you'll lose the screw or the driver. And you can tell I've got that clutched, and I'm gonna have to get one more screw so that I don't strip them out. That wood is pretty soft, and I'm 1 screw short. I would probably live, but let me see if I can grab one real quick. If I don't find one real quick, I'm not gonna sweat one out of all those. There's 1.5 inches. I'm over here in my famous drawer, looking and looking and looking. Not seeing quickly, so don't turn me into the safety police for leaving 1 screw out of the faceplate. Y'all got to promise, okay? Wind that guy right on there. Just give it a little bit of a snug. There's the step drive, but I'm going to set this off to the side. I don't think I'll use it there. All right. How are you doing today? And I'm watching your video. Hey, I'm doing great, Art, and thank you. And I'm glad you're watching your video, my video. Unless you're watching a different video instead of watching live. And I'm glad that I painted, you'll see this again. Well, you saw it in the overhead. I painted the banjo black so that things show up. So in the end camera, if I go to the end for you, you'll see that I'm just, I've got about my finger's width of clearance underneath. So 17 inches in the diagonal, all right, gives us what we need. Now, I'm going to make my tendon right here, all right? So that's our first move. I do want to, I'll grab my file. I do want to file my tool rest real quick, mostly to get the rust off it. I just keep my flat file handy. Everything down here rusts all the time. It can rust overnight. It is so humid here. I'm happy, knock on steel here, that the cameras weren't fogged up this morning. Sometimes when I come out and I turn on the air conditioner early in the morning, and then when I open up the lens caps, the lens covers on the cameras and turn them on, especially the front camera here, it fogs up and it looks like I'm in a fog. I mean, part of me is in a fog anyway. But not all the time. I don't want to be when I'm live. So let me, I'm going to go back to the end. I'm going to jump over here and check. Donald Doyle, good morning. Good to see you. I'm out here having a ball. I'm having fun. Who else has popped in? My mom dropped in. Stephen, nice to see you, Stephen. Thank you for coming by. Looks like I'm also looking at the Chroma key eye. I'm working on that lighting issue. It's getting better. I'm working on it, getting better all the time, slowly but surely. Okay. Bring tailstock up. There's where our center's going to be. Now this guy is not in balance, and we're going to play with the speed and find a speed that we like. So I always start at 0, and where are we at? We are on the end camera, and I almost, well, no, that looks pretty good because you can't see the corners, but that's all right. I always start on 0. I could probably turn this just a fuzz, and it'll probably do something wanky. So you're not having to look so much at the table. Of course, then you get to see the floor. So that is turning 575, pretty much vibration free. This is a crazy piece with all the different edges. So it's going to be clunky and chunky as we get started here, but that's all right. Do a quick clean on my face shield before I get rolling. So is the sound good, you guys? No crackles so far in the sound? Hey, Chris Parker, how you doing? Clean up this face shield. I keep swearing that I'm going to change it, put a fresh lens in. You can actually change the lens in this, but I haven't. All right. So I'll be working with all the different tools today. The Carter and Son bowl gouges, the Easy Wood tools. I need to get some of the new Sorby stuff out here. It's still in the, it's not in the store yet, so I haven't been using it out here. All right. I'm going to make a 2.5-inch tenon. So let me make sure I got my caliper around here and set where I want it. I'm going to go just a little bit bigger there. This is kind of soft. No, it's 2 3/8. I'm using Easy Wood chuck. So 2.5 is fine. I don't want too big a gap. We do want a nice strong tenon. Okay. There we go. That should do the trick. I'm looking forward. I love making these pieces. I really do. I just have a ball with them. So I am really looking forward to this. Sound is good. All right. Thanks, Pop. Let's see here. I think it's just time to get started. I can use anything on this. I did not sharpen these tools because I got caught up fighting with the infamous microphone system that wasn't working quite right. So I may have to run over and sharpen these. I sharpened the last time we were using them. We'll see how it goes. Again, I don't have camera 4 set up on the grinder, which is right. Well, you can see the grinder, but you can only see the back side of it. So let's go to the end camera here. Again, any questions along the way today? Fire up and ask me in there. Let's see. I'm always curious about that. Oh, the shadows. I'll get the chroma key worked out one of these days. All right, everything's good. And that is just quite not touching right there. Okay, we're going to flatten. First thing we're going to do is flatten this out. That's what I get for eating peanuts before we talk in the morning. It is going to be kind of chunky and dusty because this piece is really dry. All right. So I'm just going to kind of ease my way in here. Start to flatten this bottom off. The whole time I need to keep in mind, I need to raise my tool rest, that I want to make this hollow form, and one of the things I didn't say, if it's thick enough, I want to make the piece of wood here and have the bottom come out of the flat and the top come out of the flat. So I want the hollow form to be sticking through the flat plane, okay? If I didn't mention that, that is my plan today. I brought one in somewhere. Oh, here. So I brought this one in, and that gives you the idea, and I'll change the camera. This is from a different project. Like I say, I love doing these. Let me put this in the overhead for you. So you can see the left to right. You can see how the bowl sticks out the top, just slightly, and it sticks out the bottom, if I can twist my wrist enough. There you go. So that's the basic premise, although this is more of a bowl. I do kind of want to make this one a little bit of a hollow form. I've got another one I did out on the road that I really like. But that's what I'm after here today. That general concept. Maybe not that exact look. Every one of them is different. And this is a Carter & Son 5/8 high-speed steel bowl gouge. All right, so you can see we're starting to get, I'll make sure I'm on the right camera. I'm losing, oh, there, I was losing my mind for a second. I didn't know where to look. You see we're starting to get flat enough to where we could make a tenon. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit. First I'm going to move my tool rest in a little bit closer because this wood is moving pretty quick. It's really soft. It's going to be hard to turn it clean. We'll see how that spalting does, how far in there it runs. Hey Sam, how you doing? Why not go from in to out? Well, because at the moment I got the tailstock in the way, but I will go from in to out once I get a little bit of this off of here, because this wood is soft. And what I've learned is that with this really soft wood and the short screws, because I'm only running the 1-inch screws, if I beat on it without some extra support from the tailstock, it knocks it loosens up the screws. I'm gonna make sure everything's tight here. The screws get loosened up, and then when I take the tailstock away, I need to explain this a little bit for sure. This is an important point. So I've got with the screws, 1-inch screws in here, and just wood being soft. If I start out this way with, and there goes my phone. I forgot to turn it off. Hang on just a second while I turn off that silly phone. Too many things to do. Yes, I have a dentist appointment tomorrow. I know that. You called me all weekend. Sorry for the interruption. If I don't have the tailstock in place and I'm kind of beating on the wood and putting pressure on the screws, when I take the tailstock away, the piece can actually be loose and wiggle on the screws. So that's why I don't do it right now. Now when I get closer to what I want and I want to clean it up, I don't care if I'm tearing it up a little bit right now. Then I'll take the tailstock away and I'll clean it up. All right, that way I don't have as much of an issue. So that's the reason for that, ASIM. Okay, back into here. We're looking for a little more speed. There we go. Speed is your friend. Hey, Michael Lang is in here. Dell's in here. Good morning. Hope everybody's having fun. Let's take some more of this off. I mean, I can come from the inside. I'm going to leave my tenon area here. I just can't make a good cut. I can draw across it. Okay. The studio is going to be a dusty mess after this one. Okay. So there's some pretty spalting in there. Now one of the things I want to do, let me go overhead here. I want to make sure, and I need to move that, I can see I need to move this, the whole system down a little bit so it's more centered for you guys. So let me do that while I'm stopped right here. Get you a better view. Just move the whole thing over to the middle of the camera. A little bit more. I'm always about, Bill Powell, good morning. Thank you for coming by. I'm always about trying to get you the best view so that you can see what's going on. And it's a whole lot easier to move the piece than it is to move the cameras. If anybody's ever worked with the cameras, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, I want to make sure that I balance where the center of this is going to be. So, I started making the bottom here, started making the tenon. Now I'm going to have to fix that camera over to the right-hand camera because I moved everything. So, I want to go ahead and start to trim up the top here a little bit too. So sorry about the cough. So that I make sure that the thin body is pretty well centered in my top and my bottom. All right, so I don't want to get too carried away over here just yet. So I'm going to move my banjo over to the other side and come in from the top. Now, because I said I would work with all the different tools I am, and what I'm going to do here, Michael, thank you, appreciate that. What I'm going to do, I could do it with the bowl gouge in here, but it's a little bit easier with a round style cutter in the Easy Wood tool world. And so I'm going to use my favorite tool of theirs, the #1 hollower. Got a little teeny light cutter, so when I start out here I can take nice light cuts. And I can come in at any angle That's the beauty of using these tools. So I can come in at any angle. It doesn't matter. Whereas if I'm using my bowl gouge, which is up here on my table, if I use my bowl gouge, I have a much more of an issue, not insurmountable, but more of an issue to make sure I keep everything right. Again, we're just roughing things out, so I don't really care about the finish at the moment. And I see all kinds of artifacting on there, and that just makes me mad. And I'm going to do something here real quick. I'm going to take another look at this feed. It makes me mad because I don't see it in anything else. And I just don't get it. But that's what I got, so that's what I got. Alright, so, never mind me and my grumbling. We're going to come in here, we're going to make sure we're at center height, so we need to raise the tool rest. Working with the Chroma key, which I am bound and determined, I will not stop until I get it where I want it. Because it's going to give me a lot of things that I can do. And this is why you always turn it by hand, to make sure you're not going to hit anywhere. I'll have it set and there'll be no green showing, or no artifacts anywhere. And then the light changes, and it's one of the things I need to do in here in this studio. I haven't done it yet. I need to actually black out the windows. It's going to get, when it's all done, it's going to have black walls and a black ceiling. Anyway, it's going to be a cave. But I have light changing as the day changes, and it makes the settings for the chroma key change on me. Asim says, by the way, you said soft. How soft? Like wet soft or degraded old wood soft? More like the degraded old wood soft. It's not wet at all. It's probably 5 years old, and because of the fungus in it, that's when it's starting to rot, technically speaking. Alright, and I'm going to move my controls over here. It's always nice to have movable controls, magnetic base, so that if something goes wrong, you've got them right there where you want them. Now that I moved everything, I'm going to double check that everything is locked down and in place. Okay, and because it wasn't, turn it again by hand to be sure, and fire this guy up. And we're running, what did I say, we're running about 800 now, so that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to start way out here on the end, which you can just barely see, and let me show you in the end camera. I hadn't shown you this, so you can see my hand and the tool, if you can. It's way back in here. Let me see if I get up here. That's where the solid wood is, and then way out, and I don't want to hit this, way out there. Oh, and messed up the focus there. That's because I moved that. I got to change that camera for you. So we'll go back to the overhead. I'll fix that other camera before I show it to you. Anyway, it's about 2 inches of natural there. So I'll just make a couple passes across here to smooth this out, just to get started. And another thing I want you to notice, I'm standing way over here. I am nowhere close to what's going on in the middle of all this. I stay out of the way, so if I have a corner break off of there or something like that, it's going to go one way or the other. I'm way over here out of the way. I really like that idea. Alright, now, as you can see, I have a couple of choices here today also. I can let this, see how I've got a curve going right here? How this drops over? I can leave it that way, or I can make it flat. As we take some more of the middle out, that will change. So there's a lot of different things that I can go and do here. Make sure that's getting snug. I heard a little ticking. So you got a lot of variables. I can actually, oh, here's the other piece. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I knew I brought my other prop. So this piece, as you can see, the tips, it curls up. We do this one. It curls up this way. It curls from the back. It's got its hollow form hole in the middle. That probably looks wanky green on screen because this is the green resin. So there's no limit to how you do these pieces and how you shape the wings. It can be dead flat. It can be curved. It can be curved both ways. Any way you want to go, whatever suits your fancy. Sometimes it's what the wood dictates for you. Okay. So as I think about this and I'm looking, what am I going to do with those screw holes and all that stuff? How thin? And I want to make this fairly thin. So I'm going to move my tool rest in here a little bit more. And again, I'm not worried about the cuts just yet. I'm just shaping. All I'm working on is the overall concept. That's where I start. And then I start to dial things in. I know what that is. There we go. So I'm going to come in here a little bit harder. I'm going to take some more out of here because I know I want to have a dome in this. And remember, we're going to turn this piece around so we can do a lot more work to the top when we turn it around. But I really like being able to stand out of the way when I'm doing this work, especially in this stuff. So that's why I like that real small cutter. I can actually take a nice light cut and not break this because it's really fragile out here. I'm going to step over and take a look and see what I'm doing and where I'm at. I've got a good ways to go. Just, so for point of reference, let's say I take my bowl gouge. And I'm going to have to turn left-handed because I can't fit between the tool and the headstock. Now I didn't lower the tool rest from the Carbide tool, so I'm fairly high, but it's not the end of the world for what we're doing. That's the one thing about changing tools. When you go back and forth from the Carbide tools to the high-speed steel tools, oftentimes you have to change the tool rest height, and I hate changing anything. So sometimes I will just, if I can use it where it's at, then I'm happy. And we are in the overhead again. Alright, and what I'll start to do, this is what I'll do, let me show you now. I'm still standing over to the side. I'll start to occasionally, while I'm not turning, I'll take a look and see where I'm at. Okay, and then I go back away. So I take a peek, look at it, get an idea, come back. Okay. Again, since I'm just making the general shape here, I'm not terribly concerned about my having the perfect cut or whatever. Alright. So what do you think? I'm looking for votes. This means you guys have to actually type into the comment column. Should I make, turn this off. Should I make the body perfectly flat, parallel sides, or should I make it curve one way, the other way, or both ways? So type into the comment column and let me know what you think. Because at this moment, I'm where I can do whatever I want to. We're not committed to anything. This is a neat looking piece of wood. So that would be a pretty cool concept to do different things. Okay, so Art says dome on top, curve up. Michael says curves. I knew you guys, I set this up because I wanted to do curves. I knew you'd want me to do the curves. I love curves. So curves it will be. Now it's a matter of which way do we want to do the curves. How do we want to curve it? So what I think, let me see, how can I do this? Let me think about it just for a second. I'm having to think ahead. Lan wants curved up. Curved down would be that. Yeah, I think curved up with a dip going in there. All right. So we'll make that match. So I'll start to work towards that. I've got the idea in here that I think I want to do. Okay. So that's where we're going. It's been determined. Popular vote. So what I'm going to do is start taking a little bit of extra wood away. Let me change the camera for you. I'm going to start taking a little bit of extra wood away out here, leaving it in here, and then when I come back onto the back side, I will make this back side match what I've done to the outer front side, just loosely. Again, it can be tuned and refined as we go. The most important thing is to have a nice arc to everything. Oh, I'm covering my computers with chips. Oh well, that's what the air hose is for, and business deductions, right? One of these days, the computers are going to all move. I know you don't believe me, maybe, but in Smalls, this is one of the days the computers are going to move. There's 3 of them over here running, 4 actually, are all going to move over behind into a little room and be out of all this. Okay, so we started to put some of the curve into this side, and we've left a dome here on the top. So when we curve the bottom side, remember I'm looking for a balance between the top and the bottom. I kind of want to have roughly the same amount sticking out. So we started to curve in here. We'll curve this up to match that curve. So the overall curve was going to come up, just like you asked for. And as I take this away, I'll make the curve. I'll try and kind of have the form come through the piece. That's the general idea. Now I think I'm going to switch back to my carbide cutter, just because I want to work out here on the corner some more, and I want a light cut. While we're here in this camera, let me go overhead for you so you're looking down. I'm going to fix this end camera since I moved the tailstock and the whole contraption over. I'm going to zoom that out and readjust that guy so that you get a better shot of what's going on. If I do this when you're watching, it'll make you dizzy. Makes me dizzy just when I do it. That should work pretty well. Let me turn it on, make sure it stays in focus at that. I'm going to put my hand over here because the camera, I'm running at 60 frames a second to keep things in focus. Cameras have a hard time with moving stuff. Okay, I think that'll work. So, they're on the end now. I want to make sure, you know, here's where our tendon is going to be, that this has part of the body right in this area that domes up as well. So that's important that we keep that concept in mind as we shape this piece. Alright, so as I regroup, chips and salsa, double bowl in one. I've made those. I should make one of those for you guys again. I've thought about that a couple of times, Michael. They're fun to do. I don't know where I've got one floating around somewhere. I'll do one of those one time here for you guys, because they're a lot of fun. Alrighty. I'm just kind of looking at proportions here. Alright. And also, now that I've taken some of the mass away, we're turning about 800 now. I think we're going to go up around 1,000. Get a little bit cleaner cut. There we go. Gets a little scarier up at 1,000. And you're on the end camera, so let me go to the overhead. I was on the wrong camera for you. Again, I stay way out of the way when I'm turning out here on the corner. You can see if I break a tip off of this, it should just go one way or the other, not hitting me. Staying out of the way is important. Alright, so I need to go around to the back side now. I've got some shape, and I've left this pretty big at the moment. Here, it's got an interesting, you know, there's so many ways you can go with this. And the tips are sticking up actually pretty good right now. So let's go back here to the back side. I want to stay in balance, so I just kind of move back and forth. So we'll come around to the back side here. Get things set up. It's going to be an interesting piece how much I leave these wings stick up and how this works out. Alright, so I should show you, I'm going to double check something here when I turn from the back side. It should be okay. And I'm going to stay with my little cutter for the moment as I work out here. And I'm starting to have to lean. Let me show you this, what I'm doing, because you can't until I do picture in picture. So I get ready to start my cut, and I'll lean over here and kind of take a look at it for a reference, and then I come back to make my cut, and then I'll look over here when I'm not cutting. Sometimes I will eventually, I might look when I'm cutting, but I come back over, take a look. So I'm looking at the inside curve, then I'll come back and do my work. Okay? Mary Alice, good morning. Yeah, you know me and curves. I love curves, and I thank you for that. This thing is going to be so fragile out here on the end, especially if I make it thin. So another thing I want to, let me stop this for a second. This is what it's all about. As I'm turning the back here now, so I looked over. Now I'm watching this cut line. I'm looking down at the far side, and I'm watching that cut line go in. So that's how I'm watching that curve. And you can see here, if I go to overhead, now you see the curve starting to develop. And it will be thicker unless I do, depending on how it goes. It sometimes will end up thicker right here in the middle, but you can see the curve starting to develop. And that's really what this is all about, is letting things develop or developing them until you get the look that you want. And you can start out with a plan, trust me on this one. You can start out with a plan and it doesn't always end up just that way. Let me leave this in the overhead for you for this one. We'll do this so you can see how that shakes. Things don't always come out the way you want, and you just learn to adjust. You know, what your idea was and what you get sometimes are not the same. So I've hamstrung myself a little bit by how much I took away back here. I'm in the overhead, okay. So to get myself a curve here, I'm going to have to start taking some of this out right in here. And now, it may not have as much curve on the bottom. I see what's happening, and it's real hard to always have it. And it doesn't have to be symmetrical. Sometimes you want it, sometimes you don't. And so then the next thing I'll start to do, and I do it with it running, is I'll step back and I'll look at the piece from further away, so I can see how that curve is developing and how it matches what's going on here and what's going on here. Okay, so step back, take a look. You're not turning on it or anything like that. Get a feel for it, what you're doing, what you got going. Okay, now we've got plenty of material here for the tenon, so that's all good. All right. So my very tips are getting pretty thin. Okay. Now what I think I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to go ahead and, which camera am I on? I'm going to go ahead and develop the tenon. All right, so I'm at a point where I need to make a decision here. I'm going to go ahead and take the tailstock away, create the tenon, and since I'm going to make a 2.5 inch tenon, it's going to be fairly small. I got this much more material right in here, this extra material that I can work into this curve. So I need to make that change now, so I know exactly where my tenon is going to be in the very bottom. I could do a recess, of course, but that's going to actually go against what I'm trying to do. I want more material. I mean, I've got a nice curve here. I like the curve, don't get me wrong, but I would like to have had more material here. So it's time to develop the tenon. I don't know if you guys know this, but I really like this kind of work. This is, I mean, I have so much fun when I'm making these kind of pieces. I don't get any happier. I mean, I guess I can think of a couple things. But this is where I really have a good time. This is my favorite kind of turning, where it's developmental. It's something that's a work in progress as you go. And you adjust and adapt to it. And you just find the lines that look good. It's fun. I turned enough regular round bowls to make money. I always had to do some of these to enjoy myself. And it's important in wood turning that you enjoy yourself. If you're not having fun, there's something wrong. I'm looking at the time, 11 o'clock. I'm good so far. Anthony, good morning. On the road in New Jersey. Be careful in New Jersey. It's scary up there, the whole Northeast. I'm glad I'm down here in, I see the cotton is already in the ground down here. I'm in cotton towns. So It's not quite as scary here, but be careful up there, my friend. Alright, so I'm going to switch tools again now. I could make my tenon with a bowl gouge. I used to always use a 1/4-inch bowl gouge. But a square easy wood tool, the square cutter, it's the easiest way to make a tenon in the world anymore. That and the little diamond one, I need to make a dovetail. Easiest way in the world is with this tool. It makes it super simple. So why fight it, right? So that's what I use. That's my go-to tool. It's got beautiful, we're in the end shot, beautiful spalting in here, especially on this one side. Alright, now it's gonna get some torn grain. This S-piece actually, it would not be a bad idea. You could take this piece and get it roughed out, and even, you know, some of the center section, and stabilize this guy. Put it, if it would fit in a stabilizing chamber, and I think maybe it would. Get it and put it in stabilizing resin and solidify this thing real hard, and then it would turn like a dream with the Carbide tools. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So I'm going to make a little cut. I'm going for my 2 3/8. I'm going to guess right about there. Yep. I had just the right amount of coffee today. Double check that before I go too far and get all proud of myself. Yep, that worked out just right. So this square cutter makes, and I can use the front of the cutter or I can use the side of the cutter, depending on what the wood does. Sometimes it wants to go one way, sometimes it wants to go the other. So I'm going to make a 3/8 of an inch long tenon. And then I will blend this in as part of the base of the piece. This section out here, okay? So because the Easy Wood tools, chuck jaws, are approximately 3/8 of an inch. Let's see if you can see this. If I can do that right. This cutter is exactly the same dimension as the depth of the cutter, minus about a 1/16 of an inch. So if I make my tenon exactly as long as that cutter, I have about a 1/16 of an inch clearance so that my tenon does not bottom out on my chuck. And that's why it's so easy to use this. And I choose them because I can make that essentially a perfect tenon, not because I'm anything special, but because I have a predetermined measuring device right here in my hand. And if I cut a little too far, well, then I can always take a little bit off of the tenon. So with the tool, I want to make sure, and switch cameras for you. Sometimes I'm kind of far away on the camera. I'm going to go overhead. As I finish up this section, I want to make sure the tool is not sitting at an angle like this, and it's not sitting at an angle like this. And actually, using the camera, that helps me see that that's what makes it parallel. Because I want to make sure that that seat is nice and flat where the jaws are going to touch. And I just need a little bit of that. Okay, so a nice flat seat right there. And I'll go to the end now. So that's where my seat is. Oh, out here. That's where I'm at, wrong place. And now I want to make sure that this is slightly concave, just so because I've only got that 1/16 of an inch to play with. So I'll just take this and come right across here and take a little extra out of the center. This is just 101 stuff, but it makes a difference, and if you forget it, you get really mad. Then I take my tool and I put it across, and you can't see it near, but a little bit of daylight right there, and life is good. Okay, so that is developed my tenon. Now all I need is the little diamond shaped tool to cut my dovetail. About a 10-degree dovetail. Okay, so now my tenon is complete, and now I can work this into my shape. I now know where my exact bottom is, and that's really key for developing your shape. Alright, now I'm going to do it first with a round carbide tool. Change cameras. Well, first I'm going to do it with the round carbide tool just to work the curve in. And I'll probably get a little bit of tear out and whatnot. And then I'm going to come back with my bowl gouge and cut from the inside out to get as clean a cut as I can. Not lift the grain. Again, this grain is pretty soft. So you see here how we have that natural edge going on. And we have our natural edge here. That's just what it's going to be. So that's what I'm up to. And then, we'll go around, we'll turn it around and go to the front. So make sure I'm good there. Oh, and the other thing I do, just in case I need to register this sometime, change camera, Bradley, would be good, is I make sure that I put a little divot right in the middle. If I was to put the tailstock back up, it would do the same thing. So I'm going to leave myself just a shoulder for that tenon to sit on, or for the chuck jaws right there. And I don't know if you can see it real clear yet. And then the rest of this I'm going to start to blend in. So this gives me a little bit of a base to keep it up off of a table when it sits. Okay. So I step over here. Now I could take more of that away if I wanted to. Let's see what that looks like in the overhead. You can't quite see it in the overhead. And you can't really see the profile here. So I've got a little bit of a base action right in here. I can take a little bit more of that away, and I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a little half-inch, I call them 3/8, but it's half-inch in Carter and Son world, gouge, and we'll see how we do on coming in here and cleaning this up. And I'm in there, coughing. And I'm going to stop and drop this tool down. And I want to clean this up. It's not bad, but it's not perfect. And it may not be perfect today. I may not be having one of those days. And drop that down a little bit more. Again, I should go over to the sharpener, to the grinder, and put an edge on this. But let's just see what we get. I can't remember how much I used it before. It's kind of awkward reaching over a little bit, but I'm taking some more of this material away without being aggressive. This wood is really soft. Okay. If I drag the heel, and I don't have the heel ground away on this, if I drag the heel, I'll put another groove in it. We'll come back and get that little tool mark right there. Now you know why I filed my tool rest this morning, because if it hangs up at all, it will make that try and hold up. Okay, it's looking good. I have to have a sip of water, gang. I do apologize. All right, maybe I won't cough anymore. So that's looking real good. So I've got one of my favorite little tools, and sometimes it works for me. It's in my favor, sometimes it's not. It's a little 1/4 inch. This is actually a Sorby. It's a little 1/4 inch tool. with a real short, not quite a traditional bevel grind to it. Somewhere in between, it's got a real short bevel, and the heel is ground away as well. I'll try and show you this in the overhead. I don't guarantee that I'll be able to get where you can see it, because it'll probably go out of focus. But it's very, very short bevel, and the heel's ground away, and a little micro bevel on the very tip. Got the whole idea from Jimmy Clues a long time ago, and I use it on the inside of small pieces. And sometimes if I just have something where I'm trying not to have a heel drag and I want a nice light cut, this little tool is light and easy to control. Sometimes it does a good job for me. All the way out to the end, all the way. Okay? And it's real thin out there. You heard that sound? So it's real thin on the tips. So that wasn't the smoothest cut. You know, of course the sander would take care of that. But I like the shape that I've got coming out of there now off the bottom. You can't quite see it in the overhead. If I was having a really good day, I'm looking for something that might be a little more conducive. I could take a scraper and scrape it, but it would lift the grain up, so I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to step over here and I'm going to take the heel off of one of these other gouges real quick. Off of one of these 5/8. And see if I can't make, because I have to make that turn in there. So I'm shortening up that bevel. And I may make a mess out of this, or I may make it better. I'm not sure. We'll see right now. Right there's where the grain is really hard and soft by comparison. And I'm intentionally putting more curve into this backside, which will make my tip really thin. But I needed a little more profile, I felt like, and then I get out here where there's a lot of air, and it's going to tend to want to bounce around. And what's happening is it's flexing out here. It flexes. The wood starts to flex on you. All right. So I've got the shape. I'm not happy that I've got some tool marks in there a little bit. And I could chase those all day, or I could sand those out real quick. So I'm gonna leave that in the sanding world since it's 11:15, and we want to turn this guy around. I mean, if I was to go over and sharpen the tools, take the time and come back, and I could work those tool marks out, but they're really neither here nor there for what we're doing right now. So I'm gonna take the mask off and get a little fresh air and cool off, because it's nice and warm in here. Let's see what's going on over here. I got crazy things on my screen. I can't see you guys over here. All right. Computer's covered in chips. Do-do-do-do. These wings are very, very thin. Nice hair, Bradley. The wings are very thin, and that's okay. That makes it cool. The sanding, we go out there and you can sand those to exactly the profile that you want. Okay. In the overhead, you can see that we've got a corner sticking out here. We've got a corner sticking out over here. We've got some goofy natural edge there. So some fun things going on with this piece. We'll go ahead and take the faceplate off. Turn this around. Now's a good time if you've got questions. Fire them up and let me know. Since I'm in between and it's easy to look down at the monitor there and see what's going on. I'm happy with this piece. It's going to be fun. Depending on what we do with the top here for the hollow form part of it, it should be pretty interesting. And again, I talk about this a lot. I really like doing development on a piece that I don't have a real plan per se. I got a general idea plan, and doing it live. Because this, for me, is like being out on the road with the wood shows or symposium or anywhere else I might be demonstrating. I like to just work it out as I go, so that I can show people how it is in reality. If I made something that I've made 1,000 times and I went through it and I made it look super easy, you don't get as much education. This is just my personal feeling. If I did something that I could do with my eyes closed in my sleep kind of thing, you don't quite get as much as if I do something that's interesting, challenging, and even risky for me, because I might make a mistake, because we all do. We all make mistakes. Things don't always go the right way. And then you get to see, how do I work through that? And I think you learn as much from that as anything else. Asim's got a set up of questions. Why soft switcher and not hardware? Actually, it is a hardware switcher. I am running a remote, so it's a Roland V1HD, which is a hard switcher, but I'm running it on a iPad so that I can just tap it over here without having to go over to the switcher. And so the switcher is far away. The switcher costs $1,000, so I don't want to have it any closer to the chips than I have to. So all I really do is switch the cameras from here, but it does the whole panel of stuff that I could be using. So that's why. So it is actually hardware switching the cameras. I finally did that some time ago. God, I don't hope I didn't make that too small. That's about as close as I've come before without messing up. And I don't think I did. I almost messed up big time. So, and I'm going to zoom this one in for you. This is about the perfect. There, you could put a feeler gauge here in between the jaws, and I know that it may go out of focus, but I'm going to zoom this in and show you just how close I came to messing up. I don't have much margin for error there, but by the same token, that is virtually the perfect circle. Asim, this is it's got a dovetail on the tenon to match the EasyWood Tools jaws. So anyway, I got by on that one, super close, but that's perfect. And you can see also, again, if I had a fourth camera over here, it'd be great. I didn't waste any wood. My flat is right up to the jaws of the tenon, so I didn't waste anything. That makes me really happy. In that regard. Oh, wrong way. So we zip that back out like so. All right, cool beans. Now we look at the end, and here's where we're at. All right, we've got our work to do here. We've got our back shape done. We made the profile there, and I'm going to check this. Is that wood is soft and let it, if it's going to compress any. Now I want to. Part of me wants to bring the tailstock up, but I know it's going to be in my way. So the first thing I did, And you probably didn't notice. I made sure I turned my speed. Oh, go back over here. I made sure I turned my speed all the way back to 0, so that when I start out, having turned it around, there's no chance of me doing anything crazy with it. Okay. Now, let's see how this guy turns. And I'm going to double check, because I'm going to turn this pretty fast. I'm going to turn it, at 1,000 and change, especially out on these tips. I need all I can get, so I can get as light a touch as possible. So I want to make sure that chuck is tight. Everything is good there. Let's see how this guy turns. Okay, and I'll take you to the end camera, so you can. It's kind of interesting to watch the harmonics go through, if you will. So there's the stop, and then as we go through, and I probably should adjust that camera so you get a little bit better view. So that's what I'm not seeing that oscillation that you see. I just see but you can see how my hand is going through that. I can see out the other side. So I want about 1,000 or so, and I'll be happy with that. So that's turning just over, that's about 1,100, somewhere right in there. So let me change that camera angle a little bit. Let me fix that for you. So I'll give you an overhead. So let me fix this just a little bit for you, so you can see a little bit better. I love this piece, and you're going to see when I put the magenta on here, how it pops, even if I don't, like I say, I'm not going to sand this piece because of time. All right, stay in focus. I'm going to turn this on to make sure it stays in focus. It should, because it's on manual. And I didn't change it much. I usually use my ring to see if that's in focus. Okay. All right, so while we're there, quick sip for me. And we haven't even got to the fun part. This is why I'm having to hustle along a little bit. 11:22. We get the hollow inside of this guy. So we have to make this shape. We go to the end. We've got to clean this up, make this profile, and then we get to go in and hollow. And I won't go all the way with the hollowing, just enough so you get the idea. So we've got screw holes here. All right. So that's going to be the first. I'm going to clean this off, come across here and flatten that out, clean that up, and then I'm going to eliminate the screw holes. So I think I can put enough shape into this to make it cool and cut those screw holes away. All right. So that's the question: is do you put make the hole big and take them out that way, or do you make the hole smaller and put a curve in it that takes them away? So I think because of the nature of this piece, we're going to put some extra curve in it. Push the envelope just a little bit, if you will. All right. Let's see here. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to go find my marker. And I'm going to turn this thing way down, or off. And I'm going to find the screw holes there. Alright, so there I have a reference for where my screw holes are. So I'm going to go just inside of that line and cut away. That's where my hole, I can make it smaller if I want to, but I know I need to do at least that much right there. Okay. Tool of choice, gosh. Let's start to shape with a round carbide cutter, just because I like them for the sculpting. I could do it with my high-speed tools, my bowl gouges, but some people don't have bowl gouges, and I always like to make sure that I use a little bit of everything. I do not have a preference or a bias. Well, I have a preference. I don't have a bias. I do have a preference. Whatever works easiest for what I'm trying to do at the time is what I want to use. Okay. And in this case, just getting this shape started is easiest with the round tool. So I'll take my speed back up. Well, we can hum on this one. Because I'm going to use this carbide and I want it to cut as clean as I can. So we're going to go about 1500. There's 1500. Okay. And again, I want you to notice, I need 2 of these controllers now. It's turning 1500 RPMs. I'm working over here. So if something happens out there, if I inadvertently stick that tool into there, I'm not directly in the zone of what's going on, okay? I'm over here as much out of the way as I can be. So this is going to be my interior. Flatten that off. And let's say, so I'm kind of like sketching things out. For working purpose, let's say that's my wall thickness. You can see that, and I'll define that a little bit more for you here in a second. Let's say this is my wall thickness right here. So it kind of comes up like a volcano top. All right. I see the fan is blowing those chips away. So the next thing I start to do, as I start to develop this part of the shape now, I want to show you, face mask obviously on. I get over here, and before I start to cut, I come over and I look at both sides. I look right down the middle of this guy, and I'm looking at the 2 curves. If I was to come out here, I'm looking at the 2 curves from the end, and I want to try and match that up, or if that's the look I want. So I stick my head over, take a look, come back, come out here, and I'll leave the camera on the front there for you. Take a look, and I go, okay, that's cool there. Know that I want to take a fair bit out right in here, so I'll go a little bit heavier. And notice I'm staying away from the very ends right now. I'll come right out to where that starts, and I'll stop, okay? And I'm just looking at that shape develop, and I might stop it, go ahead and stop it now. As I look at it and think about what I want to do up in here. Now, since the way we're going to see it is, you're just going to see, best way for me to show you this, well, you're just going to see this when it sits on this little foot. These wings are going to sit up. So you're going to see this nice graceful arc in the top here. So that's it's important that they both, if you see it from a side somewhere sitting on a shelf, they need to have some symmetry, and they do out here on the wings on the end. And in here, that is symmetry, and they flow together nicely. So the question is, what do I do up in here? I can scoop a lot more of this out. Uh-oh, this camera went away. The front camera just went away. I wonder if it got unplugged. I don't want you seeing black. I didn't go anywhere, but that camera quit. Maybe it got unplugged. Just a minute. It's always something in the technical world. It never fails. Something comes up. Yep, the wire came out. What was pulling on that? God only knows. So we'll get that reset and readjusted. I think that's about where it was. I believe. It's always something. It's always something. Let me double check it over here in the computer world. Make sure that it's all good. Okay. Apologize for the slight delay. All right. I think we are okay. We'll go back to that. Yeah. All right. We're back and good. The power cable to the computer or the camera came off. I don't know what it was that made it fall off over there, but hey, it does. Sorry for the interruption. So anyway, in here, we can do whatever kind of shape we want to, and we want to make it match to a degree, but we can also make this more of a feature in the top here as well. And if I turn, I'm going to move this back a little bit so that you can see right down the middle of it now. You'll get a better idea what I'm talking about when I go overhead. So now you can see, if you see these two curves, get rid of my mask, that make it so important, how these two curves work with each other, all right? So I think I want to take some more out of this and let this swoop down in more to flow with this curve up here, all right? That's my plan. That's what I'm thinking. And now I can see that I need to adjust that other end camera because I just moved that. So we can fix that real quick. While we're not on it, we'll go like that. And pull you in just a little bit more. Okay. So there's my, let me go to the end for you now. There's my screw holes, as you can start to see them. So as I cut this away, I'll cut those screw holes away. All right, and we'll work on that shape. That's the key. And for the moment, I'm going to stay with this round tool as I work up here around this cone. All right. Again, we are up around 1500. It's this transition right here that it will be difficult with a bowl gouge. And you see my screw holes there, how they're still there. So I'm gonna cut, and I can always shorten this top if I have to. So let me do something a little bit different here. I'm gonna take a parting tool, and I'm gonna go right where those are, and I'm gonna cut those away with a parting tool. Okay? And I'm going to see just how much I have to take out of this. Just because it's called a parting tool doesn't mean you can't do other things with it. If I end up having to shorten my top up a little bit, well, so be it. But just remember, I can always roll this whole lip over. Okay, so my holes are out there more, so I'm just gonna keep doing this till those holes are gone. So I'm doing it in steps. I don't want to take any more away than I have to, but I want to make sure they're not there. Okay, we're getting real close, so I think now, and I've still got a wall thickness of 1/4 of an inch right there. I think I can come swing through there, and I'm going to go back to that little teeny 1/4 inch tool that I like, and make that turn. We'll see how this goes. We're going to make this turn right here. And I can actually come in here. Hopefully I'm not blocking that camera for you. I'm going to lower that tool rest for this. I do need to change it. I don't want this rim to be super fragile, because it could be smaller later, but when you start hollowing, you run the risk of breaking it, so I don't want to make it too small. But I want to make some kind of nice graceful turn here. And this is the tool for the job. I can roll right around that corner. Alright. And make a nice sweeping curve coming right off of the top of this lip here. And if I show you in the overhead, you'll start to see how that curve develop a little bit. So that was the ticket right there, and I do see just a tick of screw hole still right there. So what I'm going to do is come in and take a little bit more with this tool that I have in my hand and just change this arc a little bit. The screw holes are going to fight me on this, I can tell. And then roll around that corner. Remember, I got plenty of wood in the middle here, so I can do whatever I want to until I get what I need for this to work. Okay, so I'm finally rid of the screw holes. All right? Good deal. So I'm going to go back to my round cutter, and I'm going to work on just roughing this shape. Now I really have to decide just how much of this I want to take out. Because I've made this so drastic, just what do we want to do? Really, this should roll down further. Which camera? I'm okay. I'm on the end. So we should continue this curve in a nice natural fashion. That's why I like these for sculpting, because I can see exactly what's happening. All right. All right, so that's for fun. I've got that started, and it's kind of got its own interesting shape going on right here. Kind of like a little volcano piece to it. Now I've got a hump of extra material right in here that I do not need. And so I'm going to take that out. I'm going to move my tool rest in. Got this hump right in here. And I'm actually looking over the top while I'm doing it, while I'm not cutting on the edges. Let me show you here. Since I'm not cutting out on the edge, I'm actually standing here looking over the top. My body's out of the way. My face is in here. And I'm looking at the back side to see how that develops. Okay? And I got a little hump right there. So this way I can see both sides at the same time. All right, and that just helps the development of the curve. And I'm, it's a little volcano, and I could cut this down. You can always cut that down later if you don't like what it is. All right. So let's go back to the end camera and see what we can do. The one that I ground the heel off seemed to do a pretty good job for me. I'm going to drop this tool rest down because I don't want to run out of time. It's 11:39. So I'm going to start back up in here. Roll around that curve. Start out across the field, if you will. And I'm really just using the very tip of the tool. Alright, now the trick here is that I have to actually come back uphill, because that is coming, and let me change cameras for you. Oh, that's in the overhead, you saw that. Okay, so I have to come back uphill as I do that. Alright, so I'm going to stay in the overhead so that I can come around the end here and make this cut without getting in your way with the camera. Now, when I get out here, it'll begin to flex, and I want to do that again from the end camera, and I may mess it up this time. It's not that it's perfect now, but I want you to see how the tool makes the travel. And just for fun, I'll come down the wall of the little volcano here. And I've got a little extra material right in here, so I can take a little bit heavier cut when I come around this corner. Right in here if I want to. Take a little extra material out. And then lighten that cut back up as I come around. Right in there is where I have a little extra material in there. And then we'll let that blend in. And I like this. This thing is kind of cool. As I look at it from the front now, I'll use my black jacket for you. I know you can't quite see all the contours to it, but it's got a pretty cool contour to it. Alright, and that top is fairly smooth. I get some flex out here in the wings, and so what I would do is I would sand this to clean these up and whatnot. But I am pretty happy with that. What do you guys think? I'll show you from the overhead. You can kind of start to see, and what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take it out of the chuck, and when I do that, then we're going coloring. Get some of these chips out of the way, and then if I go to the end camera, oh, that is the end camera, excuse me. I'll go to the overhead camera for you. You can kind of see, and when I take it out of the chuck, and I'm going to, well, I got a hollow. What am I thinking about, dummy? I was getting way ahead of myself. We got to take the metal out of this a little bit. Duh. So, end camera, quick hollowing. We'll get the #1 straight hollowing tool, and we're going to go in here and start to hollow this guy out. I knew there was something I was forgetting. You're supposed to tell me, Bradley, that you haven't hollowed it yet. Okay? So this is the, again, the #1 hollower, EasyWood Tools #1 hollower. This is a great way to go in there. Small little CI5 cutter. Nice and easy to work with. End camera, I make sure I'm at the center, so I'm a little low. And then we'll be able to use the curve style tools for this as well. Alright. And off we go. Just a fuzz low, and I'm still turning pretty fast, and I'm going to leave it up there. Tempt fate today. So I can just use this tool like a drill and just drill right down in here. This is actually the easy part. So, something that's really important that just happened. I'm going to switch over here. As I was just now turning that, and I was cutting inside there, I always talk about how I don't play music, and I get a little bit of grief sometimes that I don't wear hearing protection. So as I was just making that those cuts in there, I heard this piece of wood pop. I heard a little. So it doesn't mean that it's going to come apart, but I got this thing turning 1,500 RPMs, and I hear a little pop. So I started relieving stress on the inside of this piece of wood, and I hear a click, hear a pop. That's a big red flag pops up that says something just changed. You need to be aware of what's going on. All right, something happened. This piece is. Do I see a crack anywhere or anything of that nature? No, I don't see anything. The ones that get you are the ones that you don't see. So I have to now be on heightened alert. And it's really important that you realize this, because this thing can, or any piece can, if you hear that, it says there's something just changed and there's a chance that something else more catastrophic can happen. You see stuff on the internet all the time, on posts and all, people got hit with whatever and they don't know why. My little brain just heard that click, and I noticed I stopped immediately. And I said, okay, I'm going to take a look. And if I don't see anything on visual inspection, the first thing I'm going to do begrudgingly is I'm going to turn the speed down, and then I'm going to continue on my way carefully, taking the inside out of this. But it's so important that you listen very carefully. I mean, the only sound in here is that fan blowing right next to me, and I don't know if you guys can even hear it. That when you hear something like that, that means something changed. And as soon as I started relieving tension on the inside of this, something happened. It might be microscopic, but it might get bigger. And I can't stress that enough, how important it is. If you're turning a piece like this with all these little sharp pieces, if this thing blows up, it's going to put a hole in something. And if you happen to be that something that it hits, or one of these corners hits, it's going to hurt. So it's really important. I can't stress that enough. Let's see, now there's some other folks in here. Rick Cannon, Jimmy's in here, Rick Ham. I don't know when you guys popped in, but I appreciate it coming in. So, in the name of safety, we're going to slow down. Because like I say, we're turning 1,500, so we're going to dial her down. And we'll take her down under 1,000. Things won't happen as quickly, but they'll still happen. So let me go back to the end camera. Chin chill. So I won't do a lot, but I'll show you how this works, because then I want to get some color on this thing before we run out of time here. So I can actually reach around the corner if I just go ahead and turn this tool at an angle. I need multiple controllers now. I need a producer. I can come in here at an angle with this tool. All right. I don't have to use my curve tool yet, or if you don't have a curve tool, you can work with your tool at this angle, especially with a round style cutter. Okay. So it's making do or making work as long as you keep it safe with what you've got. I got a little nub in the middle there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit more out of the middle, and then I'm going to grab a curve tool. Hope I'm not sticking. Which one am I on here? I'm in the overhead. Yeah, let me go back to the end. I'll do a little bit more with the straight tool to give me some depth, and then I'll grab a curve tool and we'll reach around the corner, and then we'll put some color on this guy. I really appreciate y'all hanging with me today. I've been having fun. I hope you're learning some things, especially that safety tip. When I heard that thing pop, that is really important. Okay? All right. So I'm going to back that up. I'm going to use an Easywood Tools, your full size number 3 cutter. It's got a CI3. And you need to back the tool rest up the way these work. That has to stay on the flat, and I know you can't quite see it in the whole picture, but you need to stay on the flat. If I go overhead, you'll see what I'm referring to. So if I'm going to start right here, I can move my tool rest up to there. I want to minimize the overhang, but I need to stay there, and then I can go further. All right? I can probably push that a little bit in. And what's important with this tool, we're on the overhead, is that you cut with the tip of the tool. All right, you cut with the very tip. See if I can get that where you can see it. Do not cut like this with the side of the cutter. It will vibrate, and if it vibrates badly, it'll break the piece. Okay. So now with this, we can reach around this corner. And then we can actually roll the tool around because we have that big hook, and we can go into the bottom. Just for the same place I was with the straight tool, because I'm now cutting with the edge of it because the tool is completely rotated over to its side. Any hook tool will let you do this. And we would just keep working our way around the inside of this and hollowing this guy out. All right. Then you still have to start getting the compressed air out to blow that out in there. So I'm going to leave because of time. Now I'm going to be able to answer questions if anybody has any questions when I get done here. And see, John Strawson just joined. I'm looking across the way there. Thank you, John, for popping in. Appreciate you coming by. Let me make one more pass just because I want to. With the curve tool, then we're going to add some color to this. See how I rotate the tool? And also, I don't know if you can hear in the microphone because it's got a noise gate on it. It sounds real high pitched up here, and then the pitch gets heavier as the wood gets thicker. And then we roll the tool around. Okay, and then we could come in with our calipers. I finally brought a small set of calipers with me from out of the warehouse. The Sorby calipers, and so we can check our wall thickness. See if I can get that up there. So right up here at the very top. Oh, let me get that in the camera. So that's 3/8 of an inch. So we got some extra wood there still if we really wanted to. That's why I can die this, and then let me see if I can keep this somewhere where you can see it. As we get down in here, it gets a little bit thicker. You see that? So we've got plenty of wood to work with, so I can dye this, and if I want to turn it again and turn that color away or sand it down, I can. But that's the way you check. It's the easiest way to check is with a set of calipers. These little guys work great. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and take this guy off of the chuck. And because I want you to see some color. Now, typically, we're not doing typical here today. Typically, we would sand this piece. I would sand it all while it's right here. Fix my hair for you. Sand it while it's right here on the lathe. You got that third hand. It's the easiest way to do it, to sand it up. But we're not going to take the time to do that today. And I would clean up all the edges and everything else. So there's our piece, and I don't like I say the way I see the light. I'm not sure how you're seeing it there. You can see it's got a funnel to it, and I'm turning it so I can see this in another camera because all I see is the green back up front. It's got a pretty interesting shape, and I'll go to the overhead. That's kind of got the best look going, it looks like. So there we are flat, and then as we come around, you see how that blends together and rolls in. Now the bottom's got tool marks, so don't kill me on the tool marks that are on the bottom. We've got the beautiful spalting down here, then that natural edge. And it's interesting, this would sand up, this is brown right now, but that would sand up clean and dye with the rest of it. And so there's the wings, and if we turn it, if I turn it a little bit like this, you can kind of see what's going on. So it's kind of like a little volcano bowl. And again, that's kind of a good view. And you can understand what I was trying to talk about, making this curve match with this curve. Now, it doesn't match exactly, and I would, you know, if I wanted to make them symmetrical, I'd come back in here and rework this back one to where it matched, say, that front one, if I had that opinion. So lots of different things that you can do there. And then when the antenna goes away, we'd round that off and we'd have our base. And so that's, if I get out of the way, and that's against the dark wall, and I need to go, dummy, change camera. I don't know if you can see that profile that we get, which is pretty cool. All right, so there's where we are on that. Let's get a little bit of color on this guy. I brought in the magenta, and I'm going to set this like that for a second. I'm going to take this chuck off of here, and I'll go to the overhead for you. And hopefully I have a paintbrush. I didn't even look. Almost broke that. That'd be bad. I think I have a paintbrush in here. I could do it with an aerosol dye, or I could just do it. I'm just going to put a simple coat of the magenta on here. And optimally, I would seal this with a clear sealer. The Chroma makes a clear sealer. I probably don't have a paintbrush in my kingdom at the moment. Be my luck. It's always something that Bradley doesn't have. With a clear sealer, it would make it dye a little bit more uniformly. You see if I have one over here. I do, but it's probably covered up in resin. Nothing good there. Well, don't that beat all? I may have to run next door. Which isn't the first time that I've done this. So I'll be 2 seconds. That's why you have the overhead shot. You haven't lost me, and I'll be talking to you the whole time. Run over here to the shop. We'll grab a paintbrush. Good thing they're close together. And we're back in the air conditioning. And I'll get myself a little container. My favorite is the yogurt cup. And what I'll do is I'm going to put the clear sealer on the back so I can show you this. So because it would have to dry, so the clear sealer would make it more uniform when it does its seal. All right, and I can just put it in this cup. The clear sealer is essentially the dye minus color, because the Chroma Annalen dyes have a bit of resin and shellac in them. And I'm there, so I need to go overhead for you guys. And it will seal the wood, and it's completely compatible with the dyes. And it will still let the wood dye and soak in. It doesn't seal it completely. It just helps even things out just a little bit. Okay. But then I would wait for that to dry, although I probably don't have to, but I would. And you can see how it brings out our spalting and the bad tool works, but we won't paint that out. Okay? All right. Cool beans. Well, I'm going to paint a little bit more on here since I've got it in here. Just because I'm already here. Even though I've got to turn that a little bit more and sand it. That'll be all good. So imagine that has been sealed with the sealer. And now let's get out our magenta, and I think it's got a safety cap in it, and it does. So I'm going to leave the camera there while I find my pliers. I had them here earlier. just for this purpose. There they are. And take the little top out of here. You should wear gloves because you'll get it all over you, but I'm not going to because I'm in a hurry. And also I would recommend not doing it right on your lathe, but I'm going to. This one gets cleaned up a lot. So this is a Magenta, and let's see what this does for us. As it dries down, it will lighten up. And I like the way you get the color, and hopefully you'll be able to see this as the sheen goes away. You'll see all the spalting. Now the reason for the sealer, I don't know if you can see. I'm going to zoom this camera in a little bit, and hopefully it stays in focus for you. Wrong way. So right here, we're basically in the end grain, and it's soaked right in, and it takes more dye than the face grains out here on the top. So if we had put the sealer on it, that's where that would be more uniform, okay? And this will dry real quick. And then you get, like I say, you get those natural lines in there of the spalting as a free decoration that nature did for us. And then you could do all kinds of different things with this piece after the fact. You could highlight the rim up here. Let me see if I have any chroma gilt over here in the container, in the drawer, excuse me. As soon as that dries. Let me see if I've got any chroma gilt over here. What do I have? I got some brass right there. You could do highlights in different colors. And it would be best to do it when it was actually turning on the lathe. It's easier to get a more even color. Let's see, what colors have I got? I got antique brass and Saxton gold. Gold might look nice on there. Saxton gold. I should have a glove on, but again, you guys know how I roll. No glove. Oh, I missed over there. That's my bad. I can see it I couldn't see it from my angle. Sorry for my head if I stuck my head in there. I saw that sticking out there when I looked over on a monitor. Just a touch on your finger. And again, this would have been sanded, so it's going to look a little rough. We'll fill that in, let that fill of the grain in. And this is the Chromacraft Chroma Gilt. This stuff is fantastic for doing highlight detail work, accents. Try and get it down in that. I want this to be uniform. Again, this hasn't been sanded or anything, so it's not smooth. And if you want a certain look where it's only on part of the texture and part of the texture, well, you can do that as well. It doesn't take but just a little teeny bit. I mean, I'm just having just a little teeny dab on my finger there, all right? And you could even go, so once this was done, you could do a different color inside, or you could do this brass inside. I see how it kind of looks kind of neat down in there. So let's say, just for yucks, if I took my finger and I made all this inside gold, the Saxton gold on the inside, be kind of like faux leafing it, if you will. You get the idea. Again, that inside is super rough. So adding a color to a piece, especially a piece like this that's got so much character to it, really makes a big difference. It looks, it's pretty rough down inside there because that's pretty torn up. But if I get it to fill all that grain, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm trying not to get my head in the way. And I'm going to show you this from the side just for yucks, just so you can see. So if I come in here and do that inner lip, and of course you can see that red back up in there still, but you get the idea. So lots and lots of things that you can do to take a piece like this and make it look very unique. And this, the Chroma gilt, you can put the finish right over top of it. On a piece like this, I would either do a lacquer or the liquid water-based WRU20 urethane. What I like about the WRU20 urethane is that it doesn't leave any sheen to it, so it looks real natural. I don't know if my green piece is floating around here. I do have one. It's a piece that's got, it's going to look weird. This has got the Rustina metallic paint system on it, and that's got the finish on it. There's no sheen to it whatsoever, whereas that's got the lacquer to it on there. So I love this kind of natural finish. I've really gotten to where I like that. Doug Dixon, what you doing, brother? Good to see you. Are you flooding down in Texas today? Down Houston way? I hope not. I hope you're doing well. We've been using Easywood tools here. If you'd have been here earlier, you'd have seen me showing your product there, Mr. Doug. So anyway, that's where are we at? What are the cameraman time-wise? Hit 12:07. I'm done. I'm late. Great piece. Had a lot of fun with it. All right, that'll dry. Our back is doing its natural thing with our color and and you can see that. And again, if I'm going to go back to the overhead real quick for you, and let you see how you can see the spalting through those colors as that dye is starting to dry out. And then the other thing I should say, I was just talking about how I like that natural finish, the dull finish. If you really want those lines in this color to pop, if you put a clear high gloss lacquer on it, they really do jump out, but that's a lot more work and things like that. So everybody, I appreciate everybody coming today, even the latecomers, Mr. Dixon, who came in at 12:05. I had a wonderful time. I hope you learned a good bit about working on this. And this piece looks cool from the end shot right there like that. I think it's kind of neat looking with the shadow on it and all that. I don't know. I'm real happy with the way this came out. I appreciate everybody coming out today. I had a wonderful time. I hope you picked up some tips and enjoyed yourself. I hope you'll come back next Monday. If you're over on YouTube, I'm not sure if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. We should be on all the platforms today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and click for notifications, and you'll always get a pop-up whenever we put other things up. And we're always out here on Mondays, and unless we have to go out of town or do something different. And every other Saturday we do Saturday Special, which is a product highlight, a product showcase. Not so much the education, more about the products. And we have special sales like we had last weekend on the resin casting and stabilizing stuff. So thank you very much. Everybody have a good, safe, happy week. I will see you next Monday out here. Don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll always come up with something. Always appreciate feedback, comments, emails. Give me a call, anything like that. Again, have a great weekend. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you next Monday. Bye now.